everybody, and welcome to our last episode of Farmers MAI-Kit, which is a live stream cooking webinar focused on some of Maine's best farm seafood. I'm Emily Whitmore with the Maine Aquaculture Innovation Center. I'm here with our salmon farmer of the day, Mohammed, and our chef, Chris from Harbor Fish. And I'm going to let you two introduce yourselves. You want to start, Chris?
Yeah. So my name's Chris. I am the manager slash chef at Harbor Fish. Been cooking for 10 years and very happy to be here.
Awesome.
And I'm Mohammed Sababi. I'm from Kelly Cove Salmon Company, which is Cooke. Been managing their farms for the last 20 years and been in the business for about 38 years.
38 years. Wow. Awesome. Chris, you want to tell us about what we're making today?
Yes. So we're going to make a salmon fritter today, and we are using the Maine Atlantic salmon for the fritter, so it's going to be delicious. Very easy recipe. That's kind of like my wheelhouse when I cook. I like to do things that are really easy. It's not going to be something that's going to take you forever to cook in the kitchen. It can be something you can kind of cook on the fly. A few steps, but nothing too crazy. It's going to be pretty quick and it's going to be delicious.
And family friendly.
Family friendly. We're going to have everybody love fish by the end of the episode.
Yep, I have. We were just talking about this about our kids, and I have 1 out of 2 that like salmon. He has all.
Yeah,
his
all my kids, all my kids love salmon, from my oldest daughter to my youngest son. You know, he's 2 years old. You know, they love salmon. That's one of the diets of our family kitchen.
Yep.
Yeah.
And these fritters may make it even, so I'm 2 out of 2.
Hopefully, that's the hope by the end of it.
Awesome. Well, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, it's kind of like a two-parter. So we're gonna make a mayonnaise mix kind of thing that's gonna go on top of the salmon and then bake it from there.
Why do you use mayonnaise mix on top?
So we're gonna use the mayonnaise mix because it's gonna keep it really moist, and then you're gonna see once we start to kind of make the fritters, that mayo and the mustard is really gonna help to kind of add like your moisture to it, so you don't have to add anything else. It's just gonna be eggs and then rinse after that. So it's gonna be really, really easy.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get started.
Awesome.
I have lots of questions for our farmer, so once you're through your explanation, I'll just start asking
Perfect.
questions.
So for the first step, we are going to make the mayo mix, which if you have the recipe, it's on the middle half of the recipe. And it is going to call for mayonnaise, capers. We're going to use lemons in this. I have granulated garlic, chili powder, and we're going to use some fresh dill. This part of the recipe, you could omit it if you wanted to and just use Dijon, but we're going to kind of elevate it a little bit. And so we're going to do this. Little side note is this mayonnaise mix can be used for a variety of other things with salmon. If you wanted to make salmon burgers, if you wanted to even save it and use it as a dipping sauce, you can do that as well. So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to jump right into it. Awesome. So we're going to start with a cup of mayonnaise. A food processor will really help you in this situation. You can use a knife and chop up everything, but it'll be a little easier this way. So we're going to go in with, so do we have a rubber spatula?
Probably somewhere around here.
Actually, I got one.
Mention where we are. This is the important part of the intro. So this episode, we are at the Maine Aquaculture Center in Atlantic, which is an awesome facility, as you can see.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're back with the rubber spatula.
Found the
All right, so we're going to go in with mayo. And we're just using a cup, so not too much. You are probably going to have leftover of this, which is perfectly fine. Like I said, it can be used as a dipping sauce, so that's great. We're going to go about, I would say, a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of capers. I like to use a little bit of the juice. Don't go crazy, but just enough of it, and then you're going like 2 tablespoons. I'm kind of eyeballing things, but do what you will.
Yeah, depending on your love of capers.
Exactly. And then we're going to go in with about a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then we're going to go in with a teaspoon of chili powder. And we're going to grab, I usually say like a quarter of a cup of lemons. You could squeeze it right into it. I'm going to use a squeezer because it's going to be a little bit easier to do it this way.
A quarter cup of lemon juice, so that would be like a lemon?
It's like a lemon. I usually at least go 1 whole lemon. It might be a little more than what you're looking for, but
Depending on how juicy the lemon is.
exactly.
But it's not an exact science.
It's
so
not an exact science.
measure with your heart.
So we'll go about 2 lemons. And then we're gonna go in with a pretty generous amount of dill. I usually say like a half a bunch of dill. When you have like really woody dill like this, I mean, you could still use the stems, but I choose not to. So I'm just gonna break them off with my fingers. And then I'm gonna give it one more break and just throw it right in the food processor. So at this point, you could add the Dijon. I am not gonna add the Dijon. I'm just gonna leave it as is right now. And then we're gonna go in and we're just gonna blend that. So consistency you're looking for. Sorry, I'm gonna go one more.
Can we just talk about how adorable the food processor is?
It is an adorable food processor. From my kitchen to yours. So at this point, we have our mayonnaise mix. It's going to be a little runny, and that's fine because you're going to have all the Dijon and everything that's going to kind of supplement that. So that's honestly perfect. For now, I'm just going to reserve that to the side. Like I said, this could be used as a dipping sauce as well. We're going to use it to put it on top of the salmon.
What would you dip it in?
Honestly, these fritters.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of like a double whammy, exactly, which is really nice. So from there, this part, I guess the hard part, if you want to say, is over. And then we're going to go in and do our vegetables to get our salmon prepped. So right over here, the vegetables that we are using, we're going to be using celery, about 4 stalks, 1 bell pepper, preferably an orange, a red, or a yellow. Biggest difference is going to be sweetness level. Your red's going to be the sweetest. Your orange will be like the next sweetest. Yellow will be a little bit further down. I try to stay away from greens during this just because they're going to be a little bit more of your garden-y kind of flavor.
Green pepper.
Exactly. Green peppers are for pizzas. And then a red onion. With all these things, you can dice them. I'm just going to go right into the food processor. The nice part about this aspect is everything is already all mixed into your mayo, so you can just kind of go right back into it. I'm going to work them into more manageable pieces. So enough where it's like manageable that you can get them in the food processor. You don't have to do anything crazy with them.
Using a whole red onion?
We are going to use a whole red onion. It kind of seems like overkill, but you can't really go wrong with onion, right?
Not hate onion.
Is that good?
Yeah, food processor for chopping saves a lot of time.
Yeah. Obviously, you could sit here and chop all this, but if you're trying to make something quick on the fly, you might as well just go this route.
Pretty colors too.
Yeah. And that's kind of why I really like this recipe. When you pull it out, I mean, it's kind of a shame ready when you pull out the salmon and everything, and then you'll see later on when we mash everything together.
That's good of the fritter.
Exactly. So we're going to work all these into manageable pieces as well.
Would you have you eaten it just baked like that? With
So yeah, I have. So another good part about this recipe is if you decide you want to do like half of this stage, and then
Yeah.
you were like, oh wait, I just want to eat this, go for it.
I'm tired of it.
Exactly. I'm already tired. All right. So I'm going to take this whole board over there. I better bet.
Want to make space over here?
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Good chef. Go.
Thank you so
Not
much.
really, not- First of all.
All right. So all this, you might have to do 2 batches, and that is perfectly fine. But the more vegetables I find, the better.
Beautiful.
That's what we're going for. So it's going to be kind of like, you're not looking for like huge chunks. I kind of rather them be smaller.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit easier in this front. Once again, we're going to go with that into a bowl as well. And the mayo mix in here already, I know it was like, we just added vegetables straight to it, but it gives the vegetables at least a little bit of something that they're already going to be working with. So
And it's less washing of dishes.
Exactly. Once again, we're trying to go easy. We're not trying to go anything crazy.
Definitely a big fan of the less dishes.
Less is
This,
Less
yeah.
dishes, easy. I'm excited to make this at home. I hope that people tuning in are making this at home. Blend it.
Yeah, it gives it a little bit of liquid too.
Yep. Good.
I think Chris is giving people a tip, they're gonna go buy blenders,
Exactly.
They cut on anything here.
There's going to be a surge in food
I know,
processors in
right?
Maine now.
Mini monsters.
Yeah,
And less to clean.
Yes,
There's
less
so
to
many-
clean.
So many benefits of the mini.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll get rid of that. And that. And that. All right. So now we're at the stage where we have our mayo mixed, we have our vegetables done, and we have our Dijon. So at this point, we can start going in the salmon. And Cooke was very nice to bring us some very beautiful salmon. And I know we were going to kind of branch on these things anyways, but I'm using a tail cut of salmon. Biggest reason I'm going to use a tail cut today is we're going to be blending it up anyway, so you don't really need that super thickness. Your biggest difference is going to be a lot of fat content. As you get towards the thicker end of the salmon, you can kind of see the fat on the side here. But I'll just use a tail cut because it's easier. It's usually a little bit cheaper. In your fish markets, they usually charge a lesser price for the tail cuts. There's no difference in the meat at all. It's just a lot of people don't want the tails because they don't know what to do with them. So I'm showing you now what to do with it.
Yes. Perfect.
So I'm gonna season the fillet pretty heavily first. I find that the fillet takes a lot of salt, and once you kind of make that fritter, you lose a little bit of the salt. Anytime you're seasoning, you try and go as high as you can. You're gonna cover more product that way.
I thought that was just for show.
Exactly, that's what everyone thinks, but
It's a technique.
it's a technique. At least that's what we like to say.
We've learned all kinds of professional chef techniques in this webinar. We'll just add that one.
And I'm not going to worry about the bottom because we're going to go pretty heavy on all this mix and then throw it in the oven.
Okay.
So we're going to go spoon on this. And I say about 3 tablespoons, give or take.
Blah.
Exactly. I'm going to go 4 because this is a teaspoon. So, and you're just going to kind of mix that in. Use the back of the spoon, and you want to evenly coat the salmon. I know at one point you're going to be looking at this, and you're going to say that is way too much stuff on this. Trust me, it'll be fine.
It does look like a lot,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we're gonna.
And then just to throw you guys off more, we're going to put more stuff on top.
It's for the good of the fritter.
And for this, I mean, you don't have to go crazy. Kind of use your eye. I'm going to go, that's probably about a cup. And we're going to go to the same thing. You can add these two together. I made a batch of this earlier today, and I found that layering it kind of gave me a little bit better result. So if you can layer it, I would go layering.
Yeah. More fun too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks good.
It makes it look like you know what you're doing a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go in with all the vegetables right on top. So when this all cooks, these vegetables are going to cook down, and that's going to kind of add most of your flavor to all this and a lot of moisture.
So what temperature oven are we cooking this in?
We are going to start at 400. So I would recommend before you start this, turn your oven to 400. Give or take, it depends on what kind of oven you're kind of rolling with. Some of them will take a little bit longer, some of them won't. I usually go rule of thumb, go 15 minutes and then kind of check from there. I don't really temp check. I mostly just kind of feel it out, but we'll get there when we get there.
Okay.
So all your vegetables on top, your mayo mix, salt, pepper, and like I said, it looks like a crazy amount, and it's going to work out. Trust me. So once we have all that, we're going to go straight into a 400-degree oven, 15, 20 minutes, and then we're going to reevaluate from there. And then hopefully we'll start making some fritters.
Sounds
Oh,
great.
cool, yeah.
Okay, so while baking, I'm going to ask Mohammed 1,000 questions about salmon.
Sure.
But the first one, so you said you've been in the industry for 38 years.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about your experience and like the history of salmon farming in Maine?
When I got involved back in 1987, right in Eastport, Maine, there was only one big farm at the time called Ocean Products, and that company had 4 farms.
Yep.
But also around that same area, there were multiple small farms owned by local people that went in and get into the business, for themselves. And there was really no competition between them or our company. The industry gets really developed. I think in Maine, in particular, I think back in 1984, 83. Some of these small companies, they were some of the locals. I think they got started, and on the Maine, on the American side, on the other side, on the border, I think Cooke, our company today, they started back at the same time, I think back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
I think 83, 84. So I started right back then in 1987 and worked right through all those years to today. And it definitely a huge change. I mean, from, technology, from equipment, from feed, salmon feed, from hatcheries, you name it. It just changed the whole aspect of the aquaculture, and it's been a really great business for me personally, and I can speak for a lot of people that it's been for so many years that we were able to raise families, and send our kids to school, and it's just been a great journey. Really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
How many employees does Cooke have right now?
In Maine, I'm pretty sure I think it's around maybe 500
500?
employees, yeah, including the fish farms and I think the processing plant in Machiasport.
Yep.
Yeah.
What are the different types of jobs? I have so many questions about what it's like to be a salmon farmer. So what are the different types of jobs that are on a salmon farm?
Well, in the salmon farm, usually there is the main job is actually taking care of the fish and raise them.
Yeah.
You get small fish from the hatchery, you got smolts, so you try to raise them to as fast as you can. Given the prices, you try to raise them as cheap as you can.
Right.
So you can make a profit. You get from feeding the fish to maintaining the structural, the cages, the moorings, the whole structure of the operation. And you've got equipment, you've got boat captains, you get fish feeders, you get fish health technicians, you get vets, veterinarians, and you got divers. It's all kinds of jobs, It's so the daily thing is mainly go feeding the fish and maintaining good husbandry and staying focused on those fish to raise and to market.
Yep.
Yeah.
So can you talk about like what a fish farm looks like? And we have a little bit of footage, some really cool drone footage of some of the pens. So can you talk a little bit about like, we'll play it while you're chatting.
Yeah, well, the early days, I think the structure of fish farm, it looked like there was mainly wooden pens, made out of wood,
Really?
rectangular cages. Yes, some of the farms, even our company, that's how they started with, So they went from the rectangular cages made out of wood, which just started fermenting, and then they went they got a lot of the technology from Norway after, so go to the metal cages.
Mhm.
galvanized metal cages. You know, they started with the 12-meter cages, and then they went to 15-meter cages, and then they went to 50-meter cages, which is a lot bigger. So the industry had changed. They moved away from the steel cages to the polar circles, because you can have cages separated from each other by a distance,
Mhm.
instead of having like multiple cages all in one row, steel cages, which is, I think, for husbandry and for practical reasons, they work a lot better for us.
Yeah, I assume you could access it better from all,
Yeah, yeah, you
those
can
stuff.
access, right, you can access into these cages, by boats, from one cage to the other. So, and also the reason, the main reason they went to they call polar circles, which is around cages with plastic, is you can maximize the capacity of fish that you can raise in them.
Mhm.
Because one cage, we deal in, they started with 80-meter cages, and now we're exclusively using 100-meter cages, and you can raise many fish in those cages. We have like a density of between like 17 to 20,000 fish in the pen.
Mhm.
The other steel cages, you can have a huge row, and then you're taking a lot of space, from other industries. So you're using less cages and than the steel ones, basically. That's
Yeah, that makes sense. So they're
Yeah.
kind of more efficient,
more efficient, yeah.
and the bigger ones, you can have more salmon, but they probably have more room to.
More room, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, these
so
100-meter cages, you can, you're raising between 17 and 20,000 fish in them.
Yeah.
And that's plenty of room for the fish to grow to market.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and you're not taking a lot of space, as far as the lease space, you're not taking a lot of it. Because if you try to raise a farm that's accommodate 400,000 fish in polar circles, it takes less room as far as the lease site concerned than
Yeah.
actually steel cages.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So within the lease site, you're taking up less space.
Right. Less
Yeah.
space. Yes. Less space.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many sites are there? Does Cooke have?
In Maine, we have let's see. I'm gonna say 12 sites.
Yeah.
12 sites altogether between Eastport. We got sites in Eastport, sites in Machiasport, which is around Machias area, and we got sites in Jonesport, and all the way down to Southwest Harbor and
Yeah.
Swans Island up there.
And are they all like, I'm picturing all the pens? Are they all filled with fish all the time, or?
No, there is multiple classes on these
Okay.
fish. So let's say we're farming this year, a class of let's say 2025.
Mhm.
So these fish here will grow to be harvested in 2026, and then you don't stock that site again until the following year. So you leave the site to follow.
Okay, so
So
it goes like a whole year
A
without.
whole year without
fish in it.
anything, any fish in there. So you do that. So there is zones, there is the area over Jonesport and Southwest Harbor. They called one area. They raise salmon at the same time compared to Machiasport and Eastport. So that gives time to these sites to follow. But it is production year round, between
Right.
all of them. So
There's salmon growing in some of the sites.
in
but
some
not
of the
on
sites, but not all of them. Yes, right.
And what's
yeah.
the benefit of following those?
Well, so you can arrest the environment, so you let the bottom, clear itself out, and just this is our regulations that we have to do, so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
All right, so what does it take if you're interested in becoming a salmon farmer, what kind of skills are important? Like, what does it take to be a salmon farmer?
Really, it's just I think salmon farming is one of those jobs that it doesn't require a lot of skills, but the skills you learn them, you get them on the job, by experience.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to be willing to, if you love the ocean, that's first thing. You got to love the ocean, and you love animals. I mean, fish is an animal, so you take care of it, and it really you learn on the job, and be lucky really to work for a company like we do, because today, the industry is really thriving, and people can really jump in, and today, it's really a successful business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it about Maine that makes it a good place to farm salmon?
Well, definitely is the purity of the water. That's one thing, and because we have the high tides here, I think one of the highest tides in the world, really, in Maine, and the flow, the current flow, constantly flowing, it just brings water, constant clean water all the time.
Yeah,
So that's good for the fish.
yeah, so they're healthy.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I have so many, I'll keep asking questions, but feel free. If you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
questions,
no,
you can
we're-
jump in too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if we need to do an, emergency cooking thing.
No,
We're waiting for,
no emergency.
we're waiting for the timer. for
Yeah,
the fish
yeah.
cooking. Okay, so can you take me through, tell me about the life of an aquaculture salmon, from, we only have a half an hour, but,
Okay,
an
so-
abbreviated version.
So when we get the fish from the hatcheries, they get delivered into our sites.
Wait, tell us about the hatchery a little bit.
Yeah, there's the hatchery is basically that's where you spawn your fish. You spawn the males and the females, broodstock. So the operation
baby
takes,
fish.
yeah, it's a baby fish. So from eggs, they become smolts, they become fry. It's called fry, and then once we get them into the sites, they become smolts.
Okay.
So once we get dues, basically is from day one, we'll start looking after them, from that point on. Usually we start stocking the sites in early springs when the temperatures range between 4.5 to 5 degrees Celsius. The hatcheries start bringing us the fish.
And they're this big.
Yeah, they range between I'll say 90 to 150 to 200 gram fish.
Yeah.
So, and then we'll stock our farms with them. So we stock our farms, and then the life of them starts right there, So every day it's 7 days a week operation. So we feed the fish, take care of it, basically having our fish tech comes in and check on them, we're having our vet come in and check on them as well. And
How often does the vet come?
we have vet that comes, the main vet comes once a month, but the fish technicians is like once a week. They'll come and monitor our fish weight there, and they do all kinds of weight samples. Because we do have to do a regular more dive, diving for dead fish that we accumulate on the bottom of the nets. So that's like twice a week we do.
Yeah,
And when
so
we
you're
do that,
really getting in there.
yeah, we get into with the fish, in these circles.
That do this?
Yes,
The
yes,
divers, okay.
yes, yes.
Pretty good.
So you go in and you go right to the bottom of those nets and then look for dead fish, and you look for structure of the nets, so you can holes in there, anything you need to fix. So yeah, so that's like I said, feeding the fish and keeping good husbandry with them, and just watching them grow.
Yeah.
Watch them grow until and we monitor their growth, every week, by how much feed we feed on them, and where they are as far as size concerned. So we do weight samples, which is the fish health technicians. That's what their job. They come in, weigh the fish, and report that to our market people. So they keep tabs on them until we say, well, okay, these cages are ready to go.
Yeah.
And then we do harvest them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're out there 7 days a week.
7 days a week, given given the weather, but sometimes the weather won't allow us to go in a day, maybe. We don't really miss them many days, So it's
Through the winter.
through the winter, yes.
Freezing cold.
Freezing cold, yeah.
And they're diving, going in the water.
Yes, yeah. Well, they have suits, neoprene,
warm
full
water.
dry suits, yeah.
Okay.
But also even the workers, they are really equipped with really comfortable cold water survivor gear that we use every day to when entering the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, it sounds like it's pretty hard work to be.
It used to be even harder than today. Like I said, today is a lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah.
But just being out there in the cold, being out there in the environment, that harsh environment, it's kind of. But really, like I said, you have to love the job. You have to love the ocean, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
How we looking over there?
I think we're good.
Really?
yeah.
Awesome.
That went by fast.
I know.
Oh,
Good oven.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was good.
I know, me too. So I'll bring this over here. So we are, let me grab a rag right behind you.
Yeah.
Throw this right down. So we are at the stage where this is cooked. So that was about, I was a little under 20 minutes, but this is a pretty diesel oven, so
Yeah.
probably get a little bit more time.
So at home, yours might take a little bit.
Exactly. So what you're looking for is you can see a lot of the moisture that we already had in there has disappeared, which is kind of where we wanted it. Like I said, I go a lot by touch. So when I go by touch, you try to find the thickest part of the salmon, which is going to be over here at the top. And you can feel it's not going to give me a bunch of resistance. So if this wasn't done, when I touched it, it would feel pretty close to what it would feel like raw. And it wouldn't kind of bind together as well.
So wait, so like smushier?
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
If
It's
not
a
done,
little
it'll feel smushier.
it's a little smushier. Like you'll realize you'll be like, oh, okay, like that'll break very easily
You feel
versus
like
this is
like a
gonna flake.
bounce when you touch it.
Yeah, exactly. This will
that's
kind of
why it looks
flake
really,
versus
really there, yeah.
a more undercooked one will kind of just mash, if that makes
Okay,
sense.
so it flakes and it bounces back when you touch it.
Exactly.
Right.
Flakes and it bounces back.
Professionals by the end.
Yeah, that's the plan. That's
Yeah.
the plan.
Wow, that really looks good.
I know, it's smelling, I know you can't smell through the webinar, but it smells very good in here.
So it will help you a little bit if it cools a little bit. So it depends. I mean, you can cool it a little bit. Also, great thing about this recipe is this is something that you could do this step the night before, pop it in your fridge, and then at least you know the next day you can just go ahead with the next stages. It's not going to hurt it at all to sit longer. It'll honestly probably help it a little bit more, develop more flavor.
Okay,
But we're going to mangle it now because
let's mango.
I'm going to go in with gloves because it's going to be pretty hot. Like I said, if you're doing this at home, I maybe would cool it a little bit because it's going to be pretty hot to the touch. And you want to get it a little bit cooled because when you go in with your eggs and everything, you don't want to scramble the eggs. You just want to make sure everything comes together.
Right.
But this will cool a little bit as we start to develop it in the bowl.
Okay, all right.
If I can ever get on gloves.
These are trick gloves.
I know.
Yeah.
I picked the good ones today.
I kind of want, can I,
Absolutely, yeah.
okay, now I know.
Yeah. So a little bit firmer. It's
Yeah.
not going to be as mushy, I guess was the
This
term.
is- I cook salmon a lot, like probably once a week at home, and I'm always like, is it? But you can eat salmon anywhere from rare to, it's like cooking a steak.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Obviously, like a lot of people love sushi salmon.
Right.
So, I mean, typically in the U.S. we freeze all of our salmon before sushi, but I mean, salmon's pretty versatile. I've known people who eat salmon pretty well done and pretty raw.
Probably me because I
Yeah.
can't tell it. But now I know, so I won't overcook it.
Just to make it manageable, I'm just going to cut into it a little bit. And we're going to go into a bowl. And this is a recipe, obviously, if your salmon isn't like 100% cooked all the way through, we're going to refry everything. So don't freak out.
Yes, true, double cook.
So we're going to put all that
Looks
into a
good.
bowl.
Can we talk a little bit while we're doing this
Yeah.
about like, why should we eat salmon?
Yeah.
What are the nutritional benefits?
So salmon is a very high protein fish, and it has a lot of good. Obviously, everyone always talks about omega-3.
Yes, we're supposed to eat more of those.
Yes, very good. And it is one of the fish that actually has the amino acids, which is pretty good. It also helps nerve function as well. I forget the exact term, but it's selenium, I believe, is the compound. Really helps nerve function. So it's kind of like an all-around great fish.
Yeah,
And I know there's always been this kind of back and forth of farm salmon doesn't have as much nutrients as wild caught, which I don't think is true. From everything I've seen, it is much exactly the same right down the board. And honestly, like you, I probably try to eat salmon at least once or twice a week, like probably both of you here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And why, I mean, really, like Atlantic salmon that you're buying at any grocery store is going, like Gulf of Maine salmon is farm salmon.
Yeah.
You can't get
it
dialed
doesn't
in,
exist
and
anymore.
it's
Yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore, but. So at this point, we're still pretty hot, but we're just kind of mashing the salmon and everything in together.
Yep.
And you're going to kind of want to work it so you're kind of losing some of the chunks. But as you can see, it gets a lot more fragrant now when everything's kind of mixed back in.
I smell so much.
Yeah,
dill.
no, wow. So,
The dill is the difference
Yeah.
maker for sure.
Different.
And then you can see like the difference if we didn't put that mayo mix in here to start. Your biggest difference is you're not going to have that kind of more rounded flavor. It's going to be more of, it's going to be fine, but this kind of brings it more together. So your two things that you're going to use to thicken this is you're going to be using eggs, and that's going to be your binder. It's going to add a little bit of fat to it. And then we're going to be using Ritz. Ritz is just going to be your, basically I like to just call it like your sponge. It's going to be,
magic.
it's the magic. We're going to go Ritz first just because it's a little hot. So the Ritz is going to help cool it down a little bit. I went with the pre-crushed Rit. You can honestly just throw them right into the bowl. Ritz are buttery enough and flaky enough that you can kind of mash them as you work, which I find is a little bit easier because it kind of gives everything a chance to blend in together.
Ritz and seafood is just.
It's a classic, absolute classic.
And if you want to get your kids to try, just say it has crackers in it.
Exactly.
right, even for the vegetables, I mean, using the blender, you can't even see the
It's-
veggies.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing. It really
sneaky.
is. Yeah,
Sneaky
yeah.
way.
That's why it's good for kids.
Kids, you don't want to eat the vegetables.
Yeah,
Oh, there's
vegetables.
No vegetables in there. Wow.
So how much Ritz are we using here?
So I usually say about a sleeve. It's gonna depend on how much moisture I guess you have in your salmon. And a lot of that is gonna go back to what we talked about by using thick cuts, tail cuts. Your thick cuts are gonna have a lot more fat because you're gonna have that nape on there, which is gonna
What is Nate?
it's gonna be the belly area of the salmon.
Okay.
So you're gonna have a lot more fat come into that.
Okay.
Versus if you're using the tail, you saw we only had a little bit of fat in that, so you're not going to get too much fat, which I kind of enjoy.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, but I always buy the tail cut because it's thin, and I feel like when I marinate it, it just
It
soaks
absorbs
all
everything
up.
really well. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
But I didn't really know why I didn't know that was the tail.
Like I want the thinner one.
Yeah. There's benefits to both kinds. What would be-
Exactly.
what would be, you'd want to buy a thicker cut for, like, what kind of applications?
I would probably use it for grilling. If you're going to do like a high heat baking, or something that you're going to be baking it on like really high heat.
Yeah.
So if we were doing this and we were maybe just going to leave the fillet, I might have done a thick cut just
Okay.
because the high heat will take to it a little bit better. I mean, like me and you, we like our salmon more overdone. So for us, that would be perfect. The tail cuts work for that high heat, but I
Yeah.
know, like I know you, for example, you prefer your salmon a little bit more under.
Undercooked.
Yeah, so I think like a thick cut would obviously be better in those situations. Our consistency here, we're kind of looking for kind of like a homogeneous blend, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Where everything is kind of together, and then we're gonna go in 2 eggs.
Like a fish salad.
Exactly.
Like a tuna salad, fish salad.
We're almost making a cake, if you will. We're gonna fry it, which then enters the fritter realm.
Critter. Baked critter.
So we're gonna go 2 eggs, and these are just gonna be for our binder.
Okay.
And this is cooled down tremendously once you throw Ritz in there.
How this do?
Yeah, I mean, once you throw Ritz in there, it cools it down tremendously. I went Ritz first again because you don't want to go in straight eggs because you'll just scramble your eggs and then,
Oh, smart. Okay.
nobody
That's
wins.
a tip.
yeah.
Don't put your eggs right into the hot salmon.
So if it's hot, you don't want scrambled
Yeah.
eggs.
Okay.
So this is a little bit wet, so I'm just gonna finish off the rest of my quart of Ritz.
Okay.
It looks to me like even before you put the eggs, you could use it as a dip, you know. with
Yeah.
crackers.
Yeah,
It's really
absolutely.
delicious.
It's true.
Yeah,
Fish dip.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fish dip, yeah.
It's kind of one of those recipes that is, it has a lot of uses,
It's
which is
quick.
Yes,
which is
yeah.
nice. I mean, you get a little, you get a dipping sauce out of it.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. You can eat that on crackers.
Exactly.
yes.
Ritz on Ritz. Okay, so that's the texture we're going for right there.
So you're pretty much going for I like to stay kind of like wet sand.
Okay,
And obviously it's a little bit warmer, so it is going to bind up a little bit more as it starts to cool down. And then once again, this is also a stage that where we're at is if you wanted to take half of this and reserve it in the fridge or in the freezer, you definitely could.
yeah, I was gonna ask if it freezes well.
Yeah, it does freeze really well. It's going to freeze. I would recommend if you were going to freeze it, just start doing the whole shebang and kind of just bread them.
Oh, so just do the whole, and then you have them.
Yeah, and then you can just kind of lay them out on a sheet pan or something and just
Yeah.
kind of wrap them, put them in a sandwich bag, and you'd be perfect.
Sweet,
That's good. Yeah.
So that's kind of like the consistency we're going for.
okay,
Get rid of this, and then we will start our heat.
okay. For the folks at home, what would you recommend putting this on?
You're gonna want to go. I would start with medium. I think the biggest thing that people have an issue with when they fry is their oil isn't hot enough.
And then it just sits in there and soaks the oil.
Exactly, you hit the nail right on the head.
Because I've done it.
So obviously, if your oil is not hot, that's when people wonder. They're like, "Well, why is everything so wet?" And it's because it's just absorbing all the oil first,
Yeah.
and then it's going to fry. So when you're frying, basically what you're doing is you're taking the moisture out of something. That's where the bubbles come from. So a lot of time when you're frying, the more bubbles that you have start coming to the surface, the more liquid that's in that product. You get a lot of it if you do frozen food. You'll start to see a lot more bubbles because it's cooking off a lot more of that liquid.
Okay,
So versus if you started your oil cold, now it has to get rid of the oil you just put into it to try to get itself to fry.
and then
But
you
by
get
that
mushy
point, it's
fritter.
yeah, exactly, exactly. We don't want a mushy fritter. So we're gonna go a normal egg wash. So we're gonna do flour, egg, panko. You're gonna do flour first or egg first, flour, flour, panko. You're gonna kind of go back and forth a little bit.
Wait, flour, eggs.
So we're gonna
flour,
go.
panko?
We're gonna put it in egg first,
Okay.
and then flour,
Okay,
and then we're gonna go back into egg a little bit, and then into panko.
panko,
Yep.
okay, got it.
So we're gonna kind of be all over the place. Egg wash, you could get away with 3, 4 eggs.
You can always add more.
Exactly. A little touch of milk too goes a long way if you realize you only are down to like 1 egg or you don't want to use all the eggs because eggs are expensive now. You can just add a little milk and it'll do the same thing.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 4 because we got a lot of fritters to get through.
That sounds great.
And I know I feel like we have a lot of hungry people
Getting
here.
hungry here, yeah.
And we're
That's
just
my
gonna whip
favorite
this.
part of these webinars. It's the after.
The eating part.
Yeah.
Great food. What's your favorite way to eat salmon?
Oh, it's well, mainly I like to grill salmon. And I use the thick parts, with the skin on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
put the skin down first?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Reason why after I marinate it for at least half hour in the fridge, so I'll take it to the grill and hot grill again. Make sure it's really hot,
Yep.
and then lay it on the skin. And when that skin you start lifting it from the grill, actually lift easy. That for me, that's done. The salmon is done.
Okay, that is
Yeah.
a good tip. That's typically how I cook it too.
Yeah.
Do you flip it ever, or do you just
No,
cook it on one
just
side?
cook it on one side.
Okay.
One
good to know.
side. Yeah.
That's where I struggle.
I always when my marinade, I usually use a lot of olive oil with it. So the olive oil will bring that fire right to the top a little bit on the salmon, and it really cooks it pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds great. What's your favorite marinade?
We use some vinaigrette, olive oil. I crush some garlic. We use ginger, and we chop up parsley and cilantro on it, and just let it marinate on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, with olive oil, and it's really good.
Do you just get to bring home salmon at the end of the day?
No, we buy the salmon through the company at our company. They give us a good price for it, so it's all nice and filleted, and whatever
You
like
don't have
that.
to-
No, no.
That's awesome.
All right. I struggled through gloves, so we got that part figured out. We got that part. The hardest part of this recipe will be gloves if you have gloves at home. And this also goes down to how you want to form them. You could do them in more of like a ball shape if you wanted to. We're going to kind of do patties because we're going to shallow fry.
Okay.
Also, two ways. We'll circle back to that. I'm shallow frying today. You can deep fry them. I kind of like shallow frying because I think it's more user friendly for the normal home kitchen. Nobody wants to get a big pot of oil and start doing that in their house. It's kind of a pain. Then you got to deal with all this oil afterwards.
Yep.
So I usually shallow fry everything, even things I know I shouldn't shallow fry. I do it anyways. I feel like it's my go-to, and it's a good fail-safe. When you're shallow frying, just like how you were looking in the pan, you're trying to go like half the distance of the pan and then judge it. Whatever your distance is, try to keep in mind that it's gonna also go up a little bit as you add your product. So you don't want exactly. And then once we do that, that's not very fun.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
And you can start to see the oil is almost like changing its viscosity a little bit. That's kind of what we're looking for. As the oil gets hotter, it's going to start changing its viscosity.
Okay.
And if you are a little bit worried about temperature and stuff, literally just grab a little piece of what you have and throw it in, and you can already start to see it going.
Is this olive oil or vegetable oil?
This is vegetable oil.
Okay.
You
Do
can use.
recommend either?
I have no preference
Okay.
really. I usually just typically go vegetable oil when frying. I think it's more attainable to get, but canola oil would work, olive oil would work,
Okay.
any oil
Any
that
oil.
you have pretty much. Yeah,
Except
any oil that you like.
Low heat oil, probably,
Yeah.
like coconut oil, but not.
Yeah, no, don't use coconut
No,
oil.
that would taste.
We want to try and keep everyone's kitchens intact.
Wondering if we should put Ben on here. What do you think? Ben on, is that gonna be too loud? Let's give it a try. Oh, it's very quiet.
Perfect.
Is it on? The light is
Lights
on.
on.
Yeah. Oh, there now.
There you go.
Yeah,
Safety first, everyone.
we use that as a little catch-all.
Tell us if we can be helpful at all. We're
So
Join the.
honestly, I'm gonna have you end up watching these when we start frying them.
Uh-oh. Okay,
The pressure's on.
I'm ready.
You watch them, I'll taste them.
Okay.
So we're going like, I'm gonna go patties. I usually say a quarter of a pound, but you kind of do whatever's gonna kind of fit your family or your needs a little bit better.
So if you have young kids, you can form them into a dinosaur.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes, exactly. I was gonna say that. I was
Yeah,
like very
yeah.
kid friendly. I mean, you could do shapes out of these if you wanted to. Literally anything.
Yeah.
It's
You
perfect
did
for.
do a shape.
Yeah, exactly.
circle.
A circle. So I did lie a little bit ahead of time. We're gonna go flour first. So.
Flour first.
And that's just gonna kind of give it a little bit of a surface for the egg to adhere to.
Okay.
And then we're gonna go into the egg. They're gonna feel in your hand like they're gonna want to fall apart. That's okay.
Don't let them.
Don't let them.
Keep it together. Keep it together, Patty. Wow, that looks so perfect.
And I mean, that's kind of what we're going for. You can use breadcrumb too. I prefer panko a little bit because it gives you a little bit more crunch to it.
Are you seasoning the panko at all?
I'm not. Nope.
Okay, so it's just plain panko.
Yep, plain panko. You certainly could use seasoned panko, like an Italian panko would be fantastic.
Okay.
An Italian seasoning would be fantastic.
But there's plenty of seasoning in these fritters.
Yes, in theory.
Yeah, we'll be the judge of that.
Exactly. You guys will have to let me know.
Sydney, do we have any audience questions? I meant to say that in the beginning also. If anyone tuning in has any questions for either of these guys, then feel free to type them in the Q&A function at the bottom. You can type it in questions. She'll field it. How many are we gonna fit in there? 4?
Probably 4.
Manage.
Probably 4.
Okay, I can do that. This little piece in there that you put in is done.
Perfect.
I can tell.
That's the tester.
Yeah.
That's the tester, yeah.
Yeah. So I got another question.
Sure.
So this is really cool. Everyone is probably pretty familiar with Seafood Watch, Monterey Bay Seafood Watch, which is like a guide to eating sustainable seafood. So Maine farm salmon is labeled as like a good alternative. So they recommend Maine salmon. other salmon from some other places that's farmed was red listed. Why is Maine salmon yellow and recommended?
Um, really, my opinion, like I said, I stated earlier, the Maine salmon, it's these waters, the waters we have.
Yeah.
I think it's a treasure. The flow, the tides, the current flow that runs right there. It's just amazing, and the temperature of the water that stays colder even in the summertime. That what gives this really. That's why we have a really good success with this salmon in Maine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the environment is so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and it probably allows, like, I was reading through their report, which is very detailed, but like no chemical use.
And
And
no,
yeah,
absolutely not. No chemicals used in this. To raise our fish. Absolutely is not. No chemicals.
yeah,
No chemicals at all.
that's awesome. It's a pretty big accomplishment.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk while we're getting, well, we have like 10 more minutes, but I want to talk about post-harvest to the grocery store. So like you have the harvested fish, tell me about the process of it getting through to the shelf or you're buying it.
Okay, so when the farm is ready for harvest, so we'll have multiple cages that chosen by us, by the farmers, by the market people. So we put these cages on starvation, for around the summertime, like for 5 days starvation. So all the body will cleanse pretty much out of the food. So we're not feeding them at all. So the meat will get really nice and condensed right there.
Mhm.
So the harvest boat will come in. Basically, let's say come in today at the early mornings, and he's out of there by, let's say, noontime with large amount of fish. Varies between 5,000 to 20,000 fish a day. So that fish they go to process, and the same day within 6 hours they're at the processing plant.
Wow.
And right after that they're right into packaging,
Yeah,
and then be shipped the same day. And you'll see trucks, the fleet of trucks of salmon heading, through America, So
Yeah.
it's fresh. I mean, the freshest thing it possible. I mean, it's just amazing. The turnaround, I mean, it is. I mean, we look at it from the fish farmers. We get these fish that we raised, for 15 to 18 months, and then just in the blink of an eye, they're harvested then one day, and within 2 days or really 2 to 3 days, they are on somebody's plates,
yeah,
just like that.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So they're out the door, processed, ready to go to the store within the same day.
The
that
same
they're
day. Yeah.
Wow. And it's all pretty much fresh.
Oh, absolutely, fresh fish. So when you are in the stores buying fish, these are the really fresh fish. I mean, our Hannaford stores here in Maine, which takes most of our fish, the Maine fish, they don't have any frozen stuff. It's all fresh.
Yeah, and it's
all
probably
fresh.
within the last 2 days.
Exactly. Yeah.
Harvested from the water.
And then that's what speaks volume for not just the commitment of a company, but also the what we raise these fish. These talking about Maine salmon. The waters here, and it's just incredibly really good for this type of fish.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Harbor Fish carries. You have Color Cove, you have Atlantic salmon.
Yep.
Tell me about we talked a little bit about the different cuts that you
Yeah.
can. So like tail cut versus fillet, is that pretty much it? The array of.
Yeah, pretty much. And like one of the biggest things we find too is the North Atlantic fillets of salmon typically will have a little bit bigger of a fat content, which fat is flavor. Exactly. And I mean, you could probably touch on that more. It's probably we attribute it more. It's colder water, so they built up more of that fat. So when typically people ask us about the different types of salmon, we typically tell them the stuff from Maine, it's a North Atlantic varietal, so it's going to have a lot more fat to it. So like that salmon flavor that people are used to, you're going to find that more in those North Atlantics, in those Maine North Atlantics.
Yeah.
Which is what we found.
Yeah. So, we have a question. Oh, about how long are we cooking the patties?
So we just put them in. We are cooking them I know this is gonna sound like every snarky answer a chef would give, but until they're golden brown and
Were
done.
you gonna say done?
Yeah, I had to catch myself. So
Golden brown.
golden brown is what we're looking for. You got a good fail safe here because, like I said, everything is cooked ahead of time. So you're basically just getting the outside nice and crispy. I would say total fry time, maybe like 4 minutes.
Okay.
And that's kind of pushing it, depending on if your oil is right up to temp.
4 minutes on each side or 4 minutes total?
4 minutes total, probably.
Okay.
Because like right at this point, and you can see it.
Yeah. Let's
As
see,
you can see it, you can see right around either side. You can start to see that golden brown already.
Yep.
So right when you start to see that, you can see that the bubbles are starting to become less and less than when we first put them in. You can flip, use tongs or something.
Be
Just gonna-
safe.
Yeah, be safe. And that's pretty much what you're looking for. Golden brown.
Mhm.
The one thing you're not going to get as well with shallow frying is you're not going to get a full kind of golden brown picture versus if you would deep frying because it's going to cover the whole thing. It's just kind of the risk you run with it. But
Yeah.
like I said, I'm a shallow fry guy, so
If you have one of those fry daddies though, and you want
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then you can do that.
And all we're kind of doing is just getting golden brown. That's all we're doing with these. And I will get.
Selling better and better. So, okay, so working at Harbor Fish,
Yes.
you're talking to a lot of customers.
Yes.
What are they looking for? Or like, what are the questions that they have?
So biggest questions that we get is obviously a lot of people want to know what the difference of all these salmons are, which we've touched on a lot of them, fat content, where they come from. And one thing that we're really seeing is the Mainers love Maine seafood. So having a Maine option in our cases has been huge for Harbor. We started carrying all the Atlantic Maine salmons, I would say, going on 5 or 6 years now of carrying it, and it's been, they love it. I mean, we sell out every week. When it comes in, it's gorgeous. Just like you guys had touched on, we can see that it does not sit around very long. It's from off the knife to in our stores in less than 3-4 days.
Yeah.
Which is pretty big. I mean, Cutler and the farms are not very close to where we are in Scarborough and Portland. I mean, it's a good distance, but you would never know when those salmons come in. They look like they have just been caught a mile away from where we are,
Yeah.
which is awesome. And those have been like the biggest questions I think of people wanting to know. One, understanding what the difference between an actual farm raised and a wild caught is, because I feel like they're not educated enough in what a wild caught versus a farm raised is, and that honestly, I prefer a farm raised over a wild caught 10 out of 10 times. I know what I'm going to get. I know what the flavor is going to be, and I know what I'm working with. And I think as a chef, that's huge for me because you're not playing this game of, okay, I got salmon and what's it going to be like? I know every single day what that salmon's going to be like. I know what it's going to taste like and what it's going to look like. And that's huge for me.
Yeah. These are looking very delicious.
Thank you.
I think we have, how many, is this clock right, Sydney? Are we bumping right up against 7 p.m.? Well, we're pretty much,
We are there.
we're there.
So golden brown, both sides is what we're looking for.
Yep,
I put down a paper towel just to kind of sop up some of that extra oil.
yep. Oh my God, those look amazing.
And then you can go how you want to, but I usually just like to hit them with a little bit of salt just at
Of
the end.
course. Wait, it's not high enough. Hold it up. Lauren.
Sorry.
There you go.
Oh, the
Get
tipper
the
like
spread.
that.
And then, like I said, I mean, we're gonna go back to our mix we made before, and you have a dipping sauce, and those are gonna be basically what we're looking for. Golden brown on both sides. You can get that crisp. I mean, they're crispy.
They're crispy.
And little inside shot.
Wow, yep.
Is pretty much what we're looking for.
Yeah.
It's all a cohesive unit, and it's kind of be like a cake kind of consistency. I mean, dig in if you want to try.
I'm gonna let it cool down for
You're
1
good.
second, because I would eat that and then burn my mouth. But I have one last question for
Sure.
you. What is your favorite part about being a salmon farmer?
Just to have a purpose on that ocean, So I get up in the morning. Believe it or not, I have almost an hour and 20-minute ride every day.
You do?
Yeah, wow. I live in Eastport. I work in Jonesport, so
Yeah.
about an hour, 20 minutes. And then there is in the day, honestly, that I get up not really happy to go to work. It's just that whole environment, that whole, the scenery, the water, you got fish you got to take care of, it's just like they're waiting for you in there, and then it's just like,
So your
it's babies, exactly, yeah. And then you look after them, and
Yeah.
you want to deliver a final product, company cares for us, and we want to put up, do our best, to put up there. And then, like I said, it's an alternative for consumers, because really, it isn't much of a wild fish, so this is an alternative, and it's a great product.
Yeah.
Absolutely great. Like I said, we eat it, my family eats it, and all my friends eat it, so we're happy to be part of it. Honestly, we're happy to be part of this.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you were able to come and share your
Yes,
experience
absolutely.
with us, and thank you, Chris.
Thank you for having
He's
me.
in the Scarborough
Scarborough store, yep.
So stop by and ask for him, and he can give you his recipe. Well, you can find the recipe on
Yeah.
the website.
I'll be happy to give you the recipe in
Yeah.
person too.
Okay, now
Please do. Dig in.
okay. You guys won't want any of these.
Halfway decent.
I'll take them. I'll just take them all.
Perfect. I got plenty.
Delicious. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. This is our final episode. If you haven't checked out the other three, we have 3 other episodes. We have oysters, mussels, and kelp. So check those out. But thank you for tuning in.